order, and we'll start off with the invocation and pledge allegiance by Councilmember Smith.
All rise. Please stand. Bow your heads. Let us pray. I'm thankful for the opportunity to be here tonight, listening, learning, serving, and representing the residents of this great city. I thank you for the opportunity to serve with my fellow council members as we prepare to conduct our business of the city and make decisions that will best serve our community. I pray that we will be considerate of all thoughts, be respectful of each other, and serve with an empathetic and compassionate ear. I'm also thankful for the wonderful turnout we had for the first annual Juneteenth celebration. It was a great representation of the city and the unity we possess. I ask that your love, comfort, and peace cover us all, our families, city employees, and residents. I ask for these things in your precious name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Smith. We appreciate that. And before we start, we're going to deviate for a whole 2 minutes, actually maybe a little bit longer, as much time as you need. But I'm looking back in the back. Adrian Garner, the Executive Director of Little John Community Center, is here to present the city and City Council a plaque in recognition from Friday night for their 25 years anniversary, which was a tremendous event, great celebration Friday night. I see a lot of people from City Council, city employees were there. So Adrian, thank you for the invitation. We enjoyed being there, and we look forward to you reading what's on this plaque. And I'm going to turn it over to you to come on up. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. The Little John Community Center Leadership Award, 1994 through 2021. Adrian Jackson Garner, founder and executive director. Laverne Ann White, founder. William Hallams, founder. Elaine Hallams, founder. For 25 years of dedication and service to the Little John Community Center, for helping us with the efforts of e-powering the community, for your support using us to bring the programs otherwise would not have been possible. The city of Clemson is a true example how government can help, with capital letters, a small town to grow to the community. Our motto at Little John Community Center is linking the community together. Thank you, City of Clemson, for helping us to make that motto statement to be live, to live by. The Little John Community Center Board, Reginald Hawthorne, President, Cynthia Jackson, VP, Lisa Robertson, Secretary, and John Duckworth, III, City of Clemson Councilman. We would like to present you with this Leadership Award. Thank you.
You get to have a picture around all of us coming around you. Is that okay?
With no mask.
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yes.
Are we all going down?
Birthday, Sarah.
Robert's going to sing for you.
Oh, please sing.
appreciate you allowing us to deviate for a few minutes. And it was, like I said, a great event with many community members there, so that was great. Public session, we'll go into public session. I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Smith again. So,
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Would like to go ahead and open up for public session. If you'd like to make a comment, please come to the podium here and speak. You have 3 minutes. We're limited to 3 minutes. But keep in mind, we need your name and address, and you would need to sign in over there on the desk. Beverly has the sign-in sheet. So if you'd like to make any comment that is not on the agenda, feel free to do so. And we also will allow members or community members to call in. You can call in at 653-9886 and follow the instructions. This is your opportunity to make a comment about anything that's not on the agenda.
and if anybody, I'm going to jump in real quickly. If anybody needs any hearing assistance devices, we have those all. As you see when you come into city chambers now, you will see they are available. And so if you need them, Lowell has them right there at his desk. So for the hearing aspect. So just keep that in mind.
So, Mayor, it doesn't look like we have any comments, and so I'll leave public session open until we get through what's the discussion on the agenda.
Okay, and I assume no calls. Okay. Thank you very much for doing that. I'll go into the approval of minutes of June 2nd, 2021. Is there a motion in respect of approval on the minutes?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Who was that, Bob?
It's both of us.
Okay, it was Joel. It's a team effort. Pick one.
Fran's got some comment.
Oh, Fran's got.
I have a question.
Yeah, wait till, who's the second? Bob's the second on this one, Beverly, sorry. I'll do tomorrow.
So-
Discussion.
I'm confused, so this will help unconfuse me. All that public comment last meeting on our first reading, was that a public session or was that just public comment? Was that the official public session, public hearing, or was that just a chance for the public to comment? In other words, have we had a public hearing on the first reading we did last week on the change? On the change to the commercial.
Removing residential.
Yeah, because there's lots of comments. It wasn't clear to me if that was the public session or that was just a comment by the public.
What was it?
That was just comment by
That was
the
comments by the public, and then with what we sent back to planning commission for them to look at, there'll have to be a public hearing because those are some pretty substantial changes, so there'll be a.
So there was no public hearing.
Right, that was
on
public
what
comment.
we had last week. Just wanted to be clear. Thank you.
Any other, now, let's go back, any further discussion on the minutes, to make sure we're all on the same page.
That was on the minutes. 'Cause
Yeah,
it
but,
indicated.
so it was indicated, but any other further discussion on the minutes? If not, can I get a vote? All in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? All right, minutes passed. Reports, discussion, agenda items. First, we're going to receive a joint city and university advisory board report. And Johnson, are you going to start first? Okay, I'll introduce. I'm adapting on the fly. So, Krista Cooper is here. She's the Director of Corporate and Community Engagement, has been in that position at Clemson University for the past 3 years. I've got a chance to meet her at different community events. We greatly appreciate you being here to give us an update on the different ways the university and the city have been collaborating over the past year or beyond. So I'm going to turn it over to you to share.
Great. Thank you so much, Mayor Halfaker. Thank you all, council members, for allowing me to come today. Dr. Miller sends his apologies for not being able to be with you tonight. He asked that I come and really introduce Johnson Link for you and to reaffirm the university's commitment to the city of Clemson. I really can't say it better than President Clemens did at the joint city meeting a couple of weeks ago. And he really spoke about the desire and the need for the university and the city of Clemson to have communication that's collaborative, timely, and transparent. He talked a little bit about having direct communication with you, Mayor Halfaker, and all of the council members. Really, I know that there have been some challenging times that we've had, but at the Division of Student Affairs and within the university at all, we've talked to all of our colleagues, or a lot of our colleagues around the country. We feel like we are in a really good place to move forward. We're currently looking at our Clemson Forward plan and doing a very heavy refresh of that plan. Part of that will be to look at our strategic priorities, and we'll be looking to the joint city council to come and discuss those strategic plans with us and work in a collaborative nature. We're really excited about the where we're going and what we're seeing happening, not only here in the community, but at the university. As always, our commitment is for the health, safety, and wellness of our staff, faculty, students, and that extends to the community of Clemson as a whole. So I, as Mayor Halfaker said, I've been at Clemson for about 3 years, and 1.5 of it was during COVID. But it was so fascinating to see how everybody just rose to the occasion in using the term that everybody uses, unprecedented times. And as we move forward, I know that I've heard President Clemens speak about the university being research, education, and service. So I was really touched with Dr. Smith's invocation today, where she talked about service and serving. And that's what we're here to do at the university, is to serve. And so I'm very excited about the opportunity to collaborate with the city in these things going forward. I know that Johnson Link has some items that he has prepared, that a report on what the city council has done in the past. So thank you again so much for the time to come and meet you all, and I look forward to collaborating with you in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks, Krista. Good evening, folks. Andy and I got together several weeks ago, and Mayor Halfaker had asked us to put some things together in regards to those opportunities that we've had together to work together. And so we started working on a list of things, and you start thinking about the city and the university. One of the first things that, and I've been around a long time, and kind of like a friend, but been around a while.
Little side jab. Sorry.
I might not be here, but I watch the meetings. But one of the first things is really the fire department. And that evolved over the years, and that kind of out of necessity or anything else. But I think it was like the late 70s when the fire department actually there was a contract that was developed between the city and the university. And then the other thing that I think we really take a lot of pride in is cat bus, and that was 1996. And I know there have been some issues along the way with cat bus and transit, and we all recognize that moving ahead, transit is what we need to do and how we need to move forward. The issue is how do we go about it? How do we do that? And so I think we're very interested in Clemson Next and the priorities that come out of there and the recommendations that come out of there. But those are two things that show, really big things, that show that we can work together and come together. With the university here and 25,000 students, I did a quick look, and I think it was over 28,000 service hours last year that students were approved through Student Affairs, and we never get this department right, the Center for Student Leadership and Engagement. And now, not all of those 28,000 hours are in the city of Clemson, obviously. That's a lot of students doing a lot of things. And with those of you with that faculty background, colleges have those opportunities as well, where students are working out in the community. Chris, I kind of touched on it a little bit, but just the past year, coming together with as we had to with COVID. And I think about the Emergency Operations Center. Andy participated in many of those meetings, and the police department had representatives there of coming together and sharing information and talking about information, and especially that medical information that was so important and helped guide decisions that City Council made. The modeling teams that were working together and putting that information together was just helping us get through this. And again, I think shows our ability to cooperate and work together. We know that graduation not being in Clemson hurt. It hurt us, it hurt the businesses, it hurt all of us, and we're delighted that it's coming back in August. But one thing that we did try to do from our side is all the graduates that were graduating in May, when our folks in the Student Affairs were contacting them about where to go and where to show up and things to do, we included a link to the Chamber of Commerce, and Susan worked with that so that the students and their parents, we sent it to the parents as well, would know that downtown's here, it's an opportunity for you. So I think that was a good opportunity for us. Right now, the tours that are coming on campus are parking in the parking garage downtown, and it was a great day. when I heard that the visitor center was moving back to the Daniel Drive temporarily. The word's temporary, but as we know, that at the university, temporary could be 10 years. So, you know, the idea that it is on Daniel Drive is wonderful. The idea that people that are going to tours are parking down off Key Street and walking right through downtown to get to the visitor center is a big plus. And David Koskowski's been a great advocate for us there. The recycling efforts that, I think the mayor was instrumental in starting with cardboard recycling. Now that we're able to take the city's cardboard, we don't have to make that trip to Liberty or to the landfill. And my understanding is the desire is to grow that. And the university hopefully will have the capacity soon to where we were able to grow that. Of course, my public safety background, I have a lot of pride in some things that happened over the years, and the police departments work great together. As a matter of fact, I was talking with Chief Mullen last week, and one of their initiatives at the Little John Community Center, where the police departments work and just engage with the youth that are out there, whether it's reading or whatever it is. And again, it's just a great opportunity for our departments to work together. Back to the fire department, Station 2. What a wonderful addition to our community, made our community safe. We're able to the city built that and helped with the equipment, and we're safer because of it out there. We have a fire department, and that fire station has some of the best equipment in the state there. So we're well equipped there. The university, sometimes space is hard to find, and some of the renovations that occurred, we actually lost the courtroom. The university courtroom was caught up in one of the space moves, and Andy was nice enough and the judge to allow us to actually use the municipal courtroom for a period of time while we were looking for space for the court. The Green Crescent Trail, heard that a couple of times since I've been here. What a great job by Chad and others in leading the effort there. And the day that I heard our folks at the university and Todd Barnett say, we're going to make that connection between the city and Perimeter Road, we're going to make that happen, was a great day, I think. I think it will happen. I actually saw a proposal last week on the study of the Pendleton Road connection as well. So I really see the great momentum there, and I'm really think something good is going to happen there. We're going to be able to tie that system into one. We're working on the September 4th event. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to be, but we're working together to be able to make that happen. Back during COVID, I left this out. Back during COVID, all of the students had to go through training that was developed by the Healthy Campus folks. And as part of that, our Healthy Campus folks provided an apartment manager's guide, which was a great document for the apartment managers to understand how to keep safe and things that they could do to work with the folks that were in there, or were in those complexes, and had heard great reports on that. And a couple of weeks ago, Todd Stedman brought up the off-campus living guide, which is a document. Actually, the first time we produced it was 2001. It was updated in 2017, and we're working on that to make sure that we get that out. And that's just a resource for students that are moving off campus into the community, to let them know about rent, about the ordinances in the city. And it's something we no longer have to print. We can print some of them, but we can use it electronically. So we're excited about that. Really excited about ITGA next year. What a great opportunity, I think, for us to come together and let folks see how we work and show Clemson and show it in a very positive light. I know that we'll be probably touching a lot of people in this room to help us with that, but I'm looking forward to that.
Johnson, can I interject just real quickly? Because we use acronyms. We use acronyms. You said ITGA, International Town and Gown Associations. So that's where I just wanted to make sure everybody was fully aware. Sorry.
Thank you. But it is International Town and Gown Association. We have members from across the country as well as across the world, and this is an opportunity to showcase. The last time we did it was 2014. We hosted it in Clemson. And the conferences that I've gone to since then, it never fails when you wear your Clemson stuff that somebody comes up to you. And I guess this is a good thing. But the one thing that they tell me about is running down the hill in the Death Valley. That really made a big thing for folks. Came in 2014, was being able. We had a reception over in the president's suite, and they wanted to run down the hill, and they ran down the hill, and that was a big deal to folks. But and I want to thank you for your attendance to the meeting a couple weeks ago with JCUAB. I hope that you heard good reports from the committees, the work groups that they're working again, and hopefully our next meeting will be in January. We can show some progress on some of the things that we talked about then. Mr. Mayor, that's the list, and I had a few to it, came up with. I'm happy to entertain any questions, or please feel free to add to it.
No, I'll just say real quickly that thank you, first of all, for being here, Johnson. We've enjoyed working with you for many years, and you bring such a wealth of experience, and we appreciate your dedication to be our liaison and be our leader and champion our efforts and to enhance our relationship going forward. And I know that I've seen a lot of good things, good momentum going forward. We all have a tendency to sometimes talk about the negative, but there's some really good positive things moving forward. And we were very pleased to hear about the graduation announcement. We hope that it's not only for August, for many years to come, but that's what I heard, so you notice I put that in there. Because we know how much it means to our community, not just business, residents. It's a great impact, and you know that. And we appreciate all your efforts on getting the graduation back. And there's just been a lot of different other efforts, and then coming together through COVID is a prime example of really the community testing. I mean, that was tremendous, having that, and we appreciate the partnership with Clemson University. So I'll stop talking. I think that we're moving in the right direction, and I look forward to continued conversation. I know that Dr. Miller couldn't be here. I know Max has been instrumental, Max Allen, as well as the president, as well as other people on the executive. Appreciate you being our liaison and giving us guidance, and we'll continue to have those discussions. So appreciate it. I'll stop talking. Other thoughts, questions?
I just want to appreciate the comment about temporary, because I think about Johnstone was out of there, not there. Now, from McGregor, my grandfather was there when it was being built. So I did appreciate your temporary comment.
Yes.
Not to date yourself or anything.
Not to date anybody.
I have a question about the university's support for the Green Crescent. Is this going to be a monetary budget item? How do you see that progressing as we try to make progress on this project?
I was, the first thing we have to do is get the perimeter road, get the working plans for that, and Todd had committed to tying that in, tying the connection from Highway 93 Gateway Park, and getting it across to Highway 76. And since I'm not in facilities, I don't know the funding end of it, but I really feel that Provost Jones is very committed to this. Many meetings that I've been involved in, sees the importance of it. So I think first we have to get the plans together, see how we're going to make the connection, and go from there.
Okay, thank you.
I have no money.
Since Todd was the CFO of facilities before he became a facilities director, I'm pretty confident he was one of the really good ones on campus.
You know,
He
Todd,
figured it out.
speaking of Todd, yeah, a couple more minutes here. The Public Works work group of JCAB, Chris Shiver and Todd make that up now because it was really decimated with retirements and people that left. But in one of the meetings, Councilmember Walker, a member as well, I believe, of that committee. But, Todd said, we just need to get together and meet regularly, talking to Chris. That he meets with his staff, that Chris or someone from the city. And that's really what this is all about. It just becomes a way of doing business from the way I look at it. That you don't have to call a special meeting. There's already a meeting. There's already a part of the way that you go about your work and you do your work, and considering what each other does. And so I hope that we continue to build on that.
So I've been here, as you said, many years, actually 40 years. And so the relationship town-down certainly fluctuated up and down. I think I would say now it's fluctuating upward, probably not completely where we want to be because of your efforts and nothing very halfway there. But it's a start. I think we have a structure in place, and I think we figure out how to best take advantage of the structure to keep moving forward and not sort of get back to where we were a few years ago, which was pretty much isolation, if not downright anger. I think we've gotten past that.
And I want to assure you, we realize that. It's certainly, it's got to continue to evolve. And Andy and I have had conversations about your Clemson Next work groups, that how do they align? And Alicia and I spoke about it as we were COVID tested the other day. With how do these groups work together? And we need to find out how we can do that, how we can make both of those groups work.
I think it's just helpful that we're willing to have the conversations.
Pardon?
That we're willing to have the conversations and keep the lines of communication open. Because I think that's really how we move forward, is just being transparent with one another, being honest as much as possible, and realizing we really do all have the same goals, because a lot of us do live here, but we also, some of us work at the university too. So in so many ways, we have a vested interest in both areas, and so I think the town and gown relationships are very, very important. So I think just keeping those lines of communication open is going to probably be our best path forward.
Any other comments, questions? If not,
So thank you.
Thank you. If not, Johnson, thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank y'all. President, thank you. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. Now we're going to receive a report from Cade. He's going to come up and talk about Visit Clemson, give us an update. He's our Clemson area tourism director. If you do not know him, it's been a little challenging. I won't speak for you. I know it's been a little challenging to put heads in beds, but I know he's got some good updates, and we've heard from him in the past about how there have been some great updates, what he's been doing for our community with other people involved. So, Cade, I'll be quiet.
Okay.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. Appreciate the time, and we appreciate the funding and support that you've shown us over the years. Obviously, the last 15 months has been difficult. We've lost 2 rowing seasons, we've lost university events, and most recently even we've lost the Honda Gold Wing event. Just some cancellation, COVID worries, things like that. Not everything's bad. During our downtime, we've had a chance to redo some things and add some things. Probably one of the biggest things we've done is we're working with Kurt Edsel, if many of you know him, in building the trails out at Central and Southern Westland, which also goes on to the old Clemson landfill site, which we're going to be able to expand onto in the future. We've got a little over 6 miles worth of trails out there. We've hosted, last summer during COVID, we did host 6 events out there though. We've recently added a skills challenge area up in the parking lot. For those of you who haven't been out there, we're getting a ton of use. There are, every day of the week you go out there, there's cars out there. On the weekends, Greenville's NICA program, Anderson's NICA program is coming down on a regular usage of it. There's not just cyclists out there, there's hikers and people out walking their dogs. And, I've talked to many people out there, guys from Simpsonville and Fountain Inn that say they come down here once a week to ride because it's the best trails in the area. They were machine made, they're single track racing, and so things are going extremely well there. We're also looking at some other properties throughout Pickens County. We've got a lead on a couple of properties, one just a little further north of here and then one in northern Pickens County, that what we would ultimately like, and then kind of combine us with what Oconee has at Stump House Mountain Bike Park, is to create a mountain biking destination in the area. Kind of keeps the natural beauty of what everybody loves about Pickens County and the Clemson area. We keep that, but yet we give something back for the community and for visitors to do. So really pushing on that. During COVID, we did have, unfortunately, our website had crashed, so we went through a rebuild process on that. We're still in the process of rebuilding. We lost all of our photos. We're updating those, but our new website is out. It is open or up, constantly being updated and with things there. Social media for us. We are doing social media on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that. We're getting over 13,000 impressions weekly, and we're getting over 33,000 hits annually to our website, even in the condition that it was in. We've recently started digital advertising. In April, we had 181,000 impressions. Our click-through rate was 33% better than average. In May, it was right at average. And they're able to do, we're targeting the Charlotte market right now to kind of test this. And what they've done is they've set up when they click through, they can track your phone number then. And then that phone number can be geo-fenced and tracked to certain locations within the city. So we've set up basically every hotel is a geo-fenced area. The bike trail is a geo-fenced area. Hey Good Mill. You know, some of the sites that we're promoting through our ads are geo-fenced for us. And we've already had our first customers that they've been able to say, hey, this number from Charlotte looked at your ad, they looked at your website, and a week later or 2 weeks later, they were at the Marriott for 2 nights or whatever. So we're seeing some positive action off of that. And that's a lot of what we did during COVID was push all of the outdoor activities, obviously social distancing, waterfalls, hiking, biking, anything that we could do along that sort of things. We recently, once we get the website rebuilt, we did start the newsletter. I hope everybody get a copy of that. That was just our first one. We're going to continue to build on that, make it better as we go along. Recently, we've also worked with Amtrak to provide our visitor guide to 4 of their locations throughout North Carolina. The representative that works our territory covers 4 in North Carolina. So he took copies of all of our visitor guides. They're going to put them up in their Amtrak stations and, you know, hopefully drive some business that way as well. One of the different things that's kind of a little bit different for us that we did is we worked with a group called Hydro, which is a rowing machine equivalent to like the Peloton. So Peloton, you get on your bike, you can, you know.
I have one, they're awesome.
Hydro?
Yes.
So you will be able to row Lake Hartwell with them soon.
That's awesome.
So they came down for a week. They filmed out on Lake Hartwell. So you can be in Australia or France or California, wherever you want to be, and you could, you know, click on the Lake Hartwell class and you could row out on Lake Hartwell. They are going to come back. We've got them set up that we want to really promote all 3 of our lakes in the area. So they're going to come back sometime, hopefully in the spring or summer, and do Hartwell, Jocassee, and Kiwi for us, and promote that as a Clemson destination out of all 3 lakes for us. We're also working with KBF, which is kayak bass fishing, to basically do the same thing. They're going to be hosting a tournament in August or September. They haven't picked the date yet. But kind of, they're doing the same thing for us where they're coming and they're fishing our lakes. They're doing videos for us. They're going to put it out on YouTube and obviously promote fishing, kayak bass fishing in the area. So, 2022, kind of a look forward. I guess let me go. Recent events that we did host was the National Christian College Baseball and Softball World Series. That's a collaboration between us and the city of Easley. The majority of the games were played in Easley. Some of the games were played out at Southern Wesleyan University. And the reason we didn't play at Nettles is we don't have a 90-foot field out there, or a 90-foot baseline field. But with that being said, we had roughly 850 rooms. All the teams stayed here in Clemson. And then we tried to track the parents. We offered the team rate to the parents as well. So we were able to track some of the parents. We had roughly 850 rooms. Total economic impact to the county was estimated at about $620,000. CAT, which is the Clemson Aquatic Team, hosted an event out at 12 Mile recently. Mary Beth will be here to give you information, all the details on that later, but we had a little over 300 participants. Great first year. Our participation on that was we provided our rowing docks. We floated those things from the rowing center all the way up to 12 Mile. Took about an hour and 15 minutes floating those upstream like that. But made them available. You know, Cat was able to use them. It was great for them, so everything worked out. I would like to say thank you to City Council for working on 12 Mile, getting that park for us. I think that's going to be a great asset. Hopefully, we can get that property row ready in the future. Little by little, you know, the university is growing. They're adding recreation out at Y Beach, and so little by little, we are losing that facility, and we've got to, you know, come up with a solution, and 12 Miles is great for that. A look ahead, 2022. We're already having spring rowing teams register with us, so, and new teams. Yale's, and actually we're expanding in our winter break as well. Ohio State will be coming down like they normally do. Yale's coming down, and I've had 2 or 3 other teams interested in coming down. Dartmouth is also possibly looking to expand theirs and actually do winter and spring break trips here as well. Boston University has talked about it, but I don't think they'll be doing it this year. And we also 2022 will bring the return of our 5K race series, which is a Pickens County race series that we put on and kind of host. And it's a race in Easley, a race in Pickens, a race out in 6 Mile, and a race in Clemson. And we kind of put all four of them together. We cross-promote. Because what we saw originally was somebody was running a race in Easley, but not necessarily coming to Clemson. Somebody was running a race in Pickens, but not going to Easley. So we're cross-promoting, putting it together as a series. We're behind it, and kind of, we offer awards, based on a whole series, enter all four races, things like that. Garrison Arena, their addition, their 40,000 square foot facility is going to open doors for us. We are looking at a couple of events that we've been wanting to get for a couple of years, the National Horseshoe Pitching Association and a large cornhole tournament that both of them required a 40,000 square foot or larger facility. We really want the National Horseshoe Pitching. It is a 2-week national championship in the middle of summer. So it's a July event. They say 400 to 500 rooms a night for 2 weeks. So we're really hoping that we can land that for a year or two. And then the last thing is, although Clemson Athletics isn't as much with us in the tourism department, the addition of women's lacrosse and women's gymnastics, we've already reached out to athletics and to Upstate Events, which was the group that controlled Tiger Paw Gymnastics that we used to host. And John, you would have been on city council at the time. That was a large event. We had 1,800 gymnasts that were in town for 4 or 5 days, and we are hoping that we can come together and start to rehost that event again. So that's kind of where we're at. Questions, concerns? Yes.
One of the things I'll do, I'm working with Elaine Richardson to start scheduling the sesquicentennial events for 2022. And we would love to be able to do some really great events around the sesquicentennial and the Visit Clemson
Okay.
group. So you will be on our list for the committee.
Sounds good. Glad to help.
Congratulations.
That's called being volunteer.
So,
Comments, questions?
Great job.
Thank you, Kate.
so that's kind of
Thanks for the
a
update.
year and a half to 2 years and a quick review.
We appreciate that. Appreciate your time and energy coming in.
At this time, we'll go ahead and close out the public session. I don't think we have any phone calls, so we'll go ahead and do that now.
Okay, thank you. And then next item is item C, discuss an amendment to the city code of ordinance to create a separate offense for bias-based crime. Councilmember Smith.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate you all giving me an opportunity to talk a little bit about, and what we really would like to talk about is hate intimidation, not necessarily bias. Crime, although it's go hand in hand, and we're looking at having that ordinance here in Clemson because, as you know, we're one of 3 states that does not have a hate crime bill. It did not pass this year, and so we're back to not having something to address the situation. Of course, in terms of individuals who would be impacted are those who consider protected classes, race, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability. Those issues are concerns where individuals tend to be targeted because of who they are or how they identify. And if anything, we can see what happened with our Asian population as it related to COVID. They were targeted just because of their ethnicity. So one of the things we want to talk about is having our own ordinance here in the city of Clemson, because we do not have one, and this will actually ensure that we feel inclusive, our community feels safe, those who are in the most vulnerable categories, because sometimes these things happen and they may not feel that there's a way to have this addressed. Also, it sends a message to our community that we really do care, and hopefully the state also will see that the more municipalities that take this as a very serious matter will hopefully pass a state hate crime, which would supersede our local ordinance, and so then we would have the state hate crime bill to follow. So this is something that I think is very important and would like to consider. And so you have the language in front of you. Mary and Chief Campos have been working with me on the ordinance language. So what we have here today is what we'd like to present to City Council. So I'm open for any discussion.
I'm so glad you're working on this.
Comments, questions?
This is great. Thanks for doing this. And I don't know what others, but is there a minimum age? I don't think there's any age list. In other words, for someone for a hate crime, you have to be older than 15. Can it be someone is there an age in other ordinances like this?
Well, for the protected class, I believe it's over 40.
No, I mean the person who's guilty of a hate crime. Is there an age? You have to be at least a certain age that you would fall under the ordinance.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think there's Mary, there's not an age associated with the.
We
offender.
didn't include one. Under the federal laws and the state human affairs law, it would be 40 and older. Younger people are not protected currently under federal and state law from age discrimination.
No, he means
No,
the
no.
offender.
I didn't need age like my
He
age.
means the offender.
The offender.
We know you think Fran's
Oh, the
interested in that a lot.
There's been some.
Typically with crimes, if you're 17 and under, you would go to DJJ, and it would go into that system. If you're older, now there's certain crimes that you can be tried as an adult. Like if you murder somebody, it's very likely, if you're not 7 years old, you're going to be tried as an adult if you had the ability to know the difference between right and wrong. But for most ordinance offenses and most state crimes that don't rise to the level of such serious crimes, you're going to go into the DJJ system. No, you might fall within the protected group. I'm not sure.
Do other cities around us have this? Central, Anderson?
No, we would be one of the first.
Columbia has one. Greenville and Charleston were the three that I kind of pulled out to see. Didn't do a comprehensive look because their ordinances were fairly similar in terms of prohibiting hate intimidation.
But Central easily pick us.
Oh, no, not within the county. Yeah.
And Alicia, you mentioned where the state is, but we reached out to Representative Carter just to give us the update, the specific update of where the state is. And like she said, it was not passed or did not even move to the point of a vote at this time. And that's what we just wanted to to clarify that. From the state level.
Last one, does this apply to Clemson University on campus also? Do they have a separate procedure?
We have it for student conduct that we address students through, and then of course we have our policies for employees. But I don't believe that there is a law or ordinance that is the university.
I suspect as you see municipalities take it up, you'll see the state, and that seems to be kind of the way it works. There's 47 other states with it, we're not, and then they start seeing a lot of different things. It seems to prod that along.
And that's one of the reasons I believe we're, as a municipality, I think it would be responsible enough for us to say, this is something that's very important, and as a state, we should also consider this as something that should be addressed. So I think it's important for us as a municipality to have something in writing until the state actually takes this matter up.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you for bringing this to this report, and obviously you'll see it on the agenda for July 6th. So, no other comments, then we'll go to item D. Discuss creating an emergency face covering ordinance that could be enacted based on local conditions in the event of a surge in COVID-19 cases. Andy, I believe you're going to start us off, or am I going to?
No, tonight, for the draft ordinance here, there's a couple of things we need y'all's input on, so that we have it ready to go if the time happens. One is we want to make sure that the criteria or metrics that we're using to trigger the ordinance are what y'all are looking for. And the other is the extent of enforcement, how you want to enforce the ordinance. Basically, if you want to do it just like you did with the last one, or if you want to do a strongly encourage. Of course, we welcome any other ideas.
Yeah, comments, thoughts?
I I think for me, the fact that we have a framework there is something to move forward from. But it's hard for me to say what the criteria should be when we don't know what the issue is. We know it may be COVID, but we don't know what the strain is. If it's super deadly, then I might have a whole different feeling than I do if it's, mutated to a point where it's like a common cold. When I look at it from a CDC or national perspective, I'm much more interested in locally, in the 29631, Pickens County, across the state when I start looking at standards. So I'm all in favor of having a framework that we'd already kind of put together. I have a very difficult time putting any metrics or standards in place until the issue is defined at that time. I think we can meet an emergency meeting or something like this in one day, so it's not like there'll be a big lag if the situation reverses where it is now. And I think at that time, even whether it be a recommendation or a mandate, it's hard for people to enforce something unless they think there's a serious nature about it. So I kind of have a hard time with that as well. Like I say, if it's a really deadly variant, it's a mandate. If it's not, then maybe a recommendation. So I appreciate having this here, but that's kind of as far as I can go with it right now.
Yes, Brandon.
So two things. I sort of agree with John in terms of how far we have to go, but if we don't have a criteria, how will we know when we have an emergency? Which is why there has to be something, when CDC tells us, or there has to be some indicator that we've now entered the emergency stage. So maybe CDC, we have to have something that we know now, so when it happens, we kick into the emergency orders. The other thing is, I would prefer this to be required, and I think it's easy to start required and go to urged or whatever the word is. Again, we don't have to decide this for tonight. I would hate us not to have something from tonight, so we have to debate for days and days once whether it's a variant or not. So I agree with your principle, John, I really do. But I would be comfortable if we had at least an idea of where we're going to go. But we definitely have to have an idea of what is the criteria that would kick us into meeting about an emergency ordinance. Is that when CDC says it's a pandemic, or is that one of these things down here? We can't. If there's no trigger, we don't know when to convene for emergency ordinance.
I worry a little bit about the wastewater piece on this, but I also kind of sort of did this. So let's just say the wastewater piece jumps up or whatever, and the CDC hasn't done anything. And this is just our issue. I can't see, I think we're going to have a difficult time coming out with something when we're doing it solely on our own and the CDC is just sitting on there. I'm not saying they're sitting, they haven't made the same determinations we've made out of that. That's where I'm concerned. We'd have a real hard time with the public from that standpoint. I think we did a good job kind of going down the path, and we kind of stayed close to where the CDC was, and so we didn't really get a whole lot of backlash because we moved forward too fast. But I think in this situation, I can see the reverse happening to that. That's what I worry about.
To echo John's point, I'm not sure how long we really continue to do the wastewater, because there is a cost associated with it. I'm assuming if we get to a certain point, because I was looking here, it says 6 consecutive readings, and so at some point, that may discontinue anyway, so then we don't have that to use as a measure to determine that. So it may be that trigger is CDC, because we know that's probably going to be the most consistent and constant way of knowing, or even, South Carolina VHA, because there's monitoring our different parts of the state and what's happening in our areas, Pickens County, to some extent. So I do agree with you, we have to have a trigger, but I'm not sure if we would actually put it in wastewater, knowing that it's a very possibility that the testing of that may even change over time. It may not be in the way that we're looking at it right now, because of where we are at this particular juncture.
I was thinking that this as everybody was talking. First of all, I'm reading Michael Lewis's book, Premonition, which I strongly suggest you read as we think about this, which is the first thing I would say, and this goes to your point of keeping it local, is maybe it's not the CDC, but DHEC, because they were on top of it. So there's also, maybe it's a phone call with DHEC by Andy. I was trying to think if we needed to include anybody else. Maybe that's an option. There's a phone call to ascertain what DHEC's current stand is, because we don't know what CDC is going to do. And so that would be a first step. And then with a warning from DHEC, or with advice from DHEC, the first step would be then for us to meet and then to determine if there's a next step. Because DHEC was really on top of this for the most part through COVID, and I think that would be our best local source of information, and then we can go from there. I'm iffy on the wastewater thing. I don't have a dog in that fight.
I'm sure they have like a terrorist threat scale where they have any moderate, you know, they probably have something very similar.
I'm sure they do now.
So, I think that's a good point. DHEC sounds like the way to go, and that would be our trigger essentially, when they say, wake up, I kind of faith in wastewater, but that's fine. And then maybe you could at least agree tonight that we're not going to debate long like days and weeks over the required versus the voluntary. I like the way that you had it, but maybe it's too early to decide that tonight, based on how the severity. I just don't want us to have this ongoing 1, 2, 3 week thing when we're in the middle of the storm, right? That's not. And so we might wait for that.
I promise I'll make a motion very quickly when we did that policy when we had a board meeting.
And I promise you I won't go.
Any other comments, discussion?
I don't want to have to say I agree with John, but I agree with John. I think, I think his biggest point is that we won't know what the data is saying on any given future COVID-related or other, possible pandemic until it's here. So I think DHEC's a good middle of the road, DHEC indication, or like what's quorum form us, three of us. Once 2 or 3 of us get sick, we've got to have an emergency meeting to come up with something before we lose quorum. So that would be a good metric.
Thank you for the summary right there. I appreciate it, Bob. If there are no other comments, are you good with framework? I've got it.
So we're going to go with DHEC.
If everybody's covered, yeah, I mean, I'm getting an agreement basically by head nods, so yes, right, thank you. Andy's got it. I heard that loud and clear. Thank you.
Mayor, can I-
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, I'm going back to the intimidation.
Oh, yes, sorry.
For the record, I forgot to say that the Clemson United for Racial Equity actually initiated the thought process of having the intimidation or the hate crime bill for the local ordinance. I want to give credit where credit is due. So as we were having that conversation, I failed to mention it, so I want that for the record. That they were instrumental in making sure that that language was provided to the city.
Appreciate you chiming in. Thank you. All right, we're going to go to item E, discuss adopting revised Clemson Next white paper strategies that recommended by the Clemson Next traffic and non-student housing work groups. And our project, it's a long statement, Shannon. But we're just going to turn it over to Shannon, our project leader, Quattlebaum. We really appreciate you being here. I just wanted to personally say thank you very much for your leadership, keeping us on track logistically. We have a meeting for Thursday for Clemson University City Relations, and she's the one that's just been so efficient. So thank you. That's just one example. So thank you. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Council. I am here tonight just to give you a quick recap of where Clemson Next is. So y'all received the strategic white paper from the earlier consultants in November, and you wanted some more community input before you agreed to move forward on the recommendations that were in that white paper. And those recommendations were very general, and you have the original recommendations with you in the packet today. And so over the past 3 or 4 months, we've had several committees already meeting: the Traffic, Transportation, and Transit Work Group, and the Non-Student Housing, Affordable Housing, and Neighborhood Preservation and Planning Work Group. Have both finished looking at those original recommendations. They have revised them. In some cases, they have added more recommendations to them, and in some cases, they've taken out the recommendation that was proposed by the original white paper. So what I have for you tonight are you have the original recommendations and then the revised recommendations from each group to take a look at, and we're hoping we can have you all take a look at these, have some discussion, and move forward towards ratification at the next council meeting. So I can talk through these, but if y'all have looked at them and you're familiar with them.
That's Clemson.
How long before this is?
Would it be best to go item by or section by section? If anybody has any comments, ask some questions. Would that be okay? And then, because we have it up there thanks to Lowell, like transit, for example? Does anybody, I know you've got everybody.
So if
city
you can
council
scroll
members.
down a little to the next page, those are the original recommendations. You scroll down, these are the revised ones. So this group started out with, I think, 4 recommendations, and they're providing you with 12. So they did a lot of work.
This was Fran's group.
This was Fran's group. But he had a very, very engaged group of community members. So there's a lot of community input on this group. The first one is to expand contributions and expand the CAT bus system itself, which is very similar to the wording in the original white paper. The second one is to fund the regional traffic study along 123. The next one is ensure that new transit lines and links to existing transit lines, basically where you're planning to add additional density for housing, that those are either on existing transit lines or there's a connection that is made there. Expanding access to public transportation by expanding the number of bus shelters, investigating the idea of creating transportation nodes where pedestrian, biking, bus could all work together, and adding some connectivity to the neighborhoods for that. 5 is basically safer streets, making streets safer in the neighborhoods. So the streets that the city has some control over, looking at where are those streets that we need to maybe lower the speed limit or look at other speed reducing or safety mechanisms to make it safer for residents to walk and bike within neighborhoods. And then creating citywide wayfinding signage. So that would include signage for vehicular transit, bicycle transit, pedestrian transit, how to find where you're looking for and by any of those means, and then also digitizing that so it's available to you on your phone. And the last one is working with the university to establish some policies to restrict commuter parking on campus and reduce the number of freshman cars. So that came from the white paper as well. If y'all have any questions, thoughts on this?
I just have one question. I know the 12, but did you all prioritize what, is it level of priority? I mean, how do you know that?
I think they wanted to get your sign off on this and then come back and work on prioritizing it once we look at funding and how that would be accomplished for some of these. All right, so the last area is expanding bike and pedestrian infrastructure, and this was a huge emphasis within the strategic plan, and this group really agreed with all of that. To prioritize funding initiatives that improve walking and biking connections between the city and the university, so anywhere those connections are, to improve those and to prioritize those. For the catalyst areas, which we're going to be going through a kind of a redevelopment workshop process for, to establish some requirements to put transit-related infrastructure in place there. And then basically continuing to add and upgrade the bike and pedestrian pathways everywhere in the city, and working to foster a culture of alternative transportation. And the last one is very general. It's just a reminder for the land use group when they're working to integrate their policies and decisions with transportation priorities. So they're all pretty general. They just wanted your kind of sign off and agreement that this was the direction you wanted them to go on before they looked at more specifics. All right. The next one is housing. So the first part there are the original recommendations, and we'll scroll down. These are also very similar to the white paper recommendations. There's some additional ones in there. So incorporating affordable and workforce housing into catalyst areas. Establish a housing trust fund to support affordable housing development and accelerate the work of the Shaw Center. To explore opportunities on how we can increase affordability in single-family neighborhoods, and to partner with surrounding communities that may have greater opportunities to create this affordable and workplace housing, and look at where that would be, and maybe we provide some transit and transportation support to those areas. For neighborhood preservation and planning, they would like to move forward with developing and implementing a neighborhood planning effort and then make it available to all of the neighborhoods in the city. They'd like to start with some of the traditional African-American neighborhoods, look at planning, basically big picture, what do they need, what does each neighborhood need infrastructure-wise, start putting a process together there and then making it available to every neighborhood in the city. Use zoning and overlay districts to prevent displacement where possible and improve quality of life. Dedicate funds for the implementation of those infrastructure projects identified through a neighborhood planning effort. And find out how to dedicate city staff resources to strengthen partnerships between neighborhood planning processes and actually implementing these plans to move forward. Any questions on this discussion? All right. To facilitate student and non-student housing, strengthening the rental housing program, using it as a mitigation tool to prevent encroachment of student rental into residential neighborhoods, and also potentially expanding the rental housing program to include all rental housing throughout the city, not just in our residential neighborhoods. Developing and implementing a process to maintain an accurate database, a census on student housing capacity and the planned occupancy, so to actually have a plan for how that's accomplished and to have that be updated on a semi-annual basis and work with our regional partners on that as well. So it's not just Clemson in the bubble, we're working with Pendleton and Central and Seneca. And then the same thing, developing a process to set up a database like that for affordable and workforce housing capacity within the city as well. That's housing.
So we've had this discussion before, so this is not new. The next step's going to have to be going through these and find some actual actionable implementation that can actually make it happen. I think Shannon's already, by the way, Shannon has been wonderful in this. Fantastic. It will help us, and I think you're going to try to tie that into the comprehensive plan whenever possible, because there are some specifics in the plan, so let me go back and review that. I think that's the way we lead us.
It's kind of the direction where we're going is after you guys ratify these, then we'll tie them in with the comp plan and work with who we need to work with on city staff to figure out how we're going to fund these, and then we can come up with a way to prioritize them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shannon, thank you very much. Love the direction. Thank you again. Thank you, Fran, for emphasizing that. Yeah, appreciate it. Staff reports.
Tomorrow night's outside on the avenue, 5 to 9 p.m.
I hope tomorrow.
And we're going to go until we can.
Right.
We're not going to cancel. We're just show up. We got a hot band out of Nashville.
There we go.
Conversations with council, June 24th at the fire substation from 6:30 to 8:30. And we have our final walkthrough of the Clemson Park Fast Track tomorrow morning. So we'll be closing out that room later this week. That's all I have for you.
That's great. Well, thank you for the update. All right. Yes, sir.
Just not to kick this dead, but so there's a public hearing on July 6th. I'm confused, so keep that in mind. And here's why I'm looking right now. So according to what I have on Monday, at our Monday, May 17th meeting, there was a public hearing on strategic plan ordinance number 1. So we've already had a strategic, unless we didn't do it that day, and I don't know that, but this is the agenda. I can't find the minutes, so bear with me. But I guess my point being, it looks like the meeting on July 6th is also on strategic plan ordinance 1. And in fact, the document posted with that is the exact same document that we have in strategic planning ordinance number 1 already. And I think if I'm tracking correctly, what we really need to do next is go back and have the public hearing about deleting or not the 2-acre plan development piece. So I guess I don't know why we're revisiting everything else that we've already had one hearing. We have had one reading on. So I don't see why we would go back to a public hearing to edit that. But I think, and please check, because we may not have actually had that public hearing, but it was scheduled for the night of May 17th. Okay, but that's okay, and that helps because. But I guess what the point is that meeting already had what was posted for the meeting on July 6th, exactly verbatim, and it still included the 2-acre business. I guess I'm suggesting that meeting, the public hearing part, because the 2 acres is such a change, that's a big deal, that should be the focus of the meeting, because that's the lingering issue that we had, right? And I think my suggestion
Focus of the meeting.
that PC needs to look at that first, and then the meeting doesn't go through this again, because we've had this once already.
On the 29th, the commission's talking about the 2 acres.
Okay, I just want to make clear on that. So that is,
That's
and the
the
meeting on the
purpose.
6th is the 2 acre meeting, not the, I guess we're not revisiting this.
No, it's
again.
just that
Okay.
one piece.
Thank
2
you.
acres and a mile, we don't have to vote.
That's, if they add it in, I mean, but right now,
Right,
it's just,
plan. So
Anything changes.
I have been hounding Andy for two weeks. He's been so kind to me, and that's the answer I expected and hoped. It's the 2 acre deal. That is the PC meeting and the July meeting, and based on that, we go back to the second reading, and this goes back to John Sullivan. The 2 acres is actually in the original document, with that deleted from that document then, and that's our second, if we approve it, and that's our second reading. So I have that right now, right? Okay.
But then you'll need a third reading to approve, because we did take action.
That's right.
So
So
in our
third-
action, we said the vote did not,
Unless we
it did
vote,
not pass.
unless we vote no.
So if we vote no, it's dead, but if we
I just wanted to
vote yes, and
Then we
whatever
have
the
to have
changes
another-
are, there'll be a third reading. Because
But
we
the
had to- we did take
the
action.
lingering issue is the 2 acres then, and maybe the 4 acres. Thank you.
Okay, I'm looking at you, John. You were talking, so I'm making sure I recognized. Okay. Fran, you get that clarification?
That was very, even I know what it is.
Okay.
That's pretty darn
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it. All right, policy action agenda, public, please, obviously we have opportunity for comments here as well in person, but we also, if you'd like to dial in 653-9886 and follow the instructions, but again, 653-9886. The first, item A is consider second reading of ordinance to rezone 2 parcels, tax map parcel, my eyes are starting to show my age. 4064-06-288745 and 4064-0637-6964 located on Victory Drive from RM12 Single Family Residential District to RM1 Two Family Residential District. Todd, I believe you're going to lead the start of this discussion.
There have been no changes since the first reading.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion? Oh,
No, I was just gonna ask Todd a question, because I was under the impression that the developer wasn't moving forward if we didn't pass it the first time. He still is going down the road, or we just don't know, so we need to take action on this.
I think there are 2 different questions in there.
There
As
are.
far as what the applicant is doing, my understanding is he has kind of walked away from, I haven't heard anything from him since the last meeting. And as in regard to the vote tonight, that's a procedural matter for council.
Let me ask one third question.
Fire away.
If we vote on it tonight, and let's, that applicant's gone, but if somebody else would have come up with this, do something else with this property, and let's say the R1A is available at that time, how long before this property can be brought? Is it related to the property or to the developer before it can come back to council? Just want to make sure we have all the time constraints.
Yeah, this is a good question, and as I understand it, is that if a parcel of land, which can only be brought up for rezoning by the owner, is rejected by council, then it cannot be rezoned or revisited for 12 months unless, and there's some really awkward language in the ordinance about this, unless the planning commission feels there was information that wasn't available at the time that y'all voted, and then they make a recommendation which then council has to approve. It's kind of a circular language the way it's written. It's one of the things we want to clean up in the ordinance. But generally speaking is that it would not be available for rezoning for a year.
So in this case, though, there would be new information, i.e. a new zoning category potentially, if that zoning category was passed. That would probably make it acceptable. Mary may weigh in on that. If there's a new zoning classification at the 12-month, we could probably make an exception. And it still wouldn't
I think
keep someone from
especially,
bringing
Bob,
forward another PD for the property, right?
I think that the way I would advise moving forward would be to address the language to make clear the types of things that might trigger or suspend the moratorium on rezoning as it is written, just so we're consistent. But I agree with you in theory, Bob, that I would think the advent of a new zoning designation would come into play. And then the second part of the question is that, to my knowledge, given SR 12, that PDs have never been threatened or taken away as a right anywhere except for, well, anywhere. The PDs have been an option throughout this whole process, moratorium and otherwise. So that option still exists out there.
I'm just trying not to get boxed in, so if 1A comes along, somebody else comes up with a project in 4 months that is suitable.
If
that
it
we
was
do
called
have a
into
path
question, that
forward.
would be, so if we don't take action tonight, we're not in any danger of that at all.
It's kind of where I'm going with that. If we
And
don't
I think
take
there
action,
might
we
be
don't do it,
some-
it just sits here, then
I might have to agree with you twice tonight.
on a roll. Yeah, I heard things.
Mary, did you want to?
I think there's some wisdom to that.
This is the actual language. It says, when the city council shall have denied a request for a map amendment, which would be a rezone, the planning commission shall not consider another request for a map amendment affecting the same property until 1 year from the date of the denial, except after a majority vote of the city council.
Read further down, this is where it gets complicated. So that towards the end of that section, that y'all could send it back to the planning commission, but then elsewhere in the ordinance, it defines that there has to be new information that wasn't considered, I think is the way it's worded, as part of that same section that Mary's looking at. And that's the second piece. So y'all can send it back to the planning commission, but there are conditions and standards by which they are supposed to be applying.
I think it's right. I mean, that's what we considered the last time that issue came up with the triangle.
Actually pulled back the request last time. Not this one, I think it was the parcel.
Did I understand you correctly to say that the applicant had withdrawn? Or what's going on with this?
No, he has, we have not had any communication with him,
Okay.
which is not unusual and certainly not a reflection on anything other than the fact that I think that he's regrouping or rethinking what approach he wants to take. He was very pleasant to work with, and there's nothing acrimonious that I'm aware of.
So Todd, the applicant in this case was not the owner of the property.
Say that again, please, Fran.
The applicant was not the owner of the property. The person who actually applied was not the owner of the development.
Well, the owner had filled out the form. The applicant was the one moving the process through, which is very typical. Most rezonings, you have, sometimes you have the owner involved in this room, but they have to sign the form and agree to it. It's their land. I couldn't come in and rezone your property without your signature.
I mean, it says it in the thing that an agent can do it, and I assume Doug Laurel is an agent, but do you have a sense from the property owner? You haven't heard anything from the property owner about her wishes for rezoning?
They were obviously highly in favor of it for some time. I think they just felt like that council's wishes were not aligned with theirs, and so they're going to take a different tack because y'all don't want to rezone the land.
But I mean, the sale was probably continued.
Yeah, the sale was-
on the rezoning, so of course
Correct.
they were interested.
Any
For
other
the-
questions? Go ahead.
For the planning commission, and I think this is what Todd was talking about, for the planning commission to recommend to council for a rezoning within 6 months, they have to determine first that there's been a substantial change in the character of the area, or that there are evidence of factors which were not considered in prior deliberations and which could alter the basis for the recommendation.
So, Mayor, if we didn't take action on tonight, nobody made a motion, this would just rest, and we could revisit visit at any time, is that?
Well, it says that the 12 months would kick in if you denied the request.
Say what now?
I think that's right, because it says that the 12-month quiet period would kick in if council denies the
If we did nothing tonight, it just, language is,
Well, you could have a motion to postpone the vote.
indefinitely.
So there's no procedural requirement that 2 readings have to be done in a specific number of days or weeks or months. You can just
Well, it has to be at least 6 days apart.
no more
That's
than
it.
6
That's
days.
the
But
short
you can
end.
stretch.
The long end.
So what if we just never take action again on this? I mean, someone would have to come and ask us, like, hey, you all have postponed, this vote hasn't come back up, you all didn't take action last time. Does it just die a natural death eventually?
I actually haven't seen that very often, but I think the applicant would probably come to planning and codes and say, listen, let's see if we can get that on the.
So if
thing."
they do
Sure.
that, then we could take action if they requested that we did.
Right.
Okay.
I think any council member could ask that it be put on the agenda.
Any other comments? Any motion? Do not hear any? All right, we'll go to item B, consider
Excuse
second
me,
reading.
Mayor, if I have a second, before I step out, that John and Bob, maybe either during the staff reports or when y'all do the council reports, we had discussed having a workshop with the council. Do y'all want to take up that matter during the council reports?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Is there anything you would need from me during that conversation? You sure?
Got it.
Go home, Todd.
Appreciate it, Todd. All right, second item B is to consider a second reading of ordinance to adopt the fiscal year 2021, 2022 budget. Andy and Leslie are here for any comments, questions for anyone? Okay. Would anybody like to make any type of motion?
Move that we consider a second reading of an ordinance to adopt the fiscal year 2021-22 budget as presented.
Do I have a second? Second. Okay, second. Any further discussion?
I would make a motion that we amend the budget to decrease the mills by 1.7 as we originally discussed.
Second.
I'm sorry, could you, to decrease
Yes.
to?
Decrease by 1.7 mils. To the very first budget they brought us.
Without the increase of the
Okay.
1.7.
Without the increase, they take the increase.
Okay.
So there'll be no increase.
There'd be no increase.
Correct.
We can absorb everything out of fund balance.
Any other further discussion on that amended motion? If not, on the amended motion, all in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed, raise your right hand. That does not pass, so we'll go back to the original motion of consider the second reading of ordinance to adopt the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. And that was all in favor. Well, any other further discussion? I think I still can ask. I still think I can ask for further discussion. None? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed, raise your right hand. All right, that passes 4-3. We'll go to other policy items. Consider a request from the Friends of the Green Crescent Trail to install 6 walk your city signs in the public. Walk your signs. See, as the meeting gets later, I start reading things a little differently. Yeah, exactly. All right, let me start over here. Consider a request from the Friends of the Green Crescent Trail to install 6 walk your city signs in the public right of way. And Chad, thank you for being here. Thank you for bearing through the meeting. You know, you've been here for a while, so we appreciate it. And we'll just turn it right over to you.
Thank you, council members, for letting me present this proposal to you. On behalf of the Friends of the Green Crescent Trail, I'm a board member, as all of you know. And this is a proposal to do a pilot project, essentially. And I was looking over the Clemson Next recommendations from the Transportation Committee, which I was a part of as well. And I think this is something that we could test out inexpensively, in fact, free for the moment, because we would pay for this pilot project. Test out some of the wayfinding and other ways just to make it easier and safer and more enjoyable to walk around the community. So specifically, this is a program that we were inspired by the community by Raleigh, North Carolina. There were some local volunteers who began doing that several years ago. It's a Walk Raleigh program, so we could call it a Walk Clemson program. And the idea is just to have small signs, inexpensive signs, temporary signs to start off with. It could turn into a permanent program all around town. And it just tells you as a pedestrian how long it takes to get somewhere and then what is actually at the other place you're walking to. So for example, we're proposing to have some starting in downtown. And if you left the parking garage in downtown, you would see a sign that says 10-minute walk to Lakefront Park and a minute or whatever amenities are there at the park. Or if you're in downtown College Avenue, it's a 2-minute walk to green space and picnic area. So you could get to Shanklin Sam's green space. So the idea is just to have a simple wayfinding that tells you what to do, what you can do in these spaces. And one of the motivations was we found that we had volunteer days, and we were talking to students at some of these cleanup days in Abernathy Park, and a lot of the students didn't even know that this is the first time I've ever been to Abernathy Park, believe it or not. And so something as simple as this could let people know what's in their community, and specifically let them know they can get there on foot 2 minutes, 10 minutes away, which is something a lot of people can manage and can do. The other benefit to this we see is that this is the longer people get on their feet, get out of their car, park in downtown, the more likely they are to get ice cream, stay and have a meal. So it can just be another way to try to help the downtown businesses and then eventually businesses around town. So we have run the idea by Chief Campos, and his main concern was just making sure it doesn't block sight lines at intersections. So we would be cognizant of that. We went through planning and codes who asked us to come get permission from you to put these signs in the public right away. The only addition that I didn't mention in our description of the proposal you have in front of you is I communicated with Raleigh, some people in Raleigh, and they said they also, in addition to these signs, used stencils on some sidewalks in some cases. So if you were to get permission, maybe we could have permission to work with appropriate city staff, so if that was appropriate in some locations, to do that as well. So Mopa, any questions or feedback or how this would work?
Quickly, Chad, you mentioned Raleigh, but walkyourcity.org website is which I used.
Correct. Yeah, that's the group that started in Raleigh started this website.
For more information, but yeah, John. And then
Chad, I like that. I think it's great, and I like the trial thing. I would like to coordinate, so maybe this goes ahead and gets in place, but for example, our JCUAB group, one thing we're doing is a sign inventory. It's going to be done in July, and one of our goals is to create signage like this with destinations, points, and different things, so maybe these go ahead and get out there. I don't know what the expense is, I don't want to waste money, but at the same time, I would see that incorporating into what we do later on when we work with the university, so we could have cross signage at the appropriate places and points of interest. So this dovetails perfectly into that.
Sure.
And I think you mentioned this is kind of a temporary type of pilot program. So maybe,
Low cost as well.
and you're probably more nimble than we are. You probably have this up and running before we get into a point of doing it. But I wanted to kind of, maybe I need to bring you in next time our group meets and we try to incorporate that into the bigger signage.
Absolutely. I think the idea here is just to be able, this could be applied to other projects too, is to test something at a low cost on a temporary basis that are going to also eventually potentially be bigger projects. They might not. We might decide this is a failure and you want to shoot it down, but it costs $150 to do it, and you have volunteers implementing it, so it's not going to cost the city money to do it.
And Chad brought up like Shanklin Sands. We were one time downtown at the corner. No necessarily directional signs to get in there. We knew about it, obviously, but it was what, a fourth of a mile.
Yeah.
Just having that could really help and create opportunity. Sorry, France.
So this is great. I would make one suggestion. I would, particularly as the minutes get longer, I would put the distance with it. So I walk with Bob Brookwater at lunch. He's the slowest walker ever. It takes him 10 minutes to walk a quarter of a mile. You know what I'm saying? So I do think, sure, maybe not the minute or two, but I think there is a point, seriously, that 10 minutes can be a big difference in terms of walking, even 2 minutes. And I know you said in the documentation that the minutes are better than the distance, but I would suggest at least maybe after 5 minutes, the distance, meaning 10-minute walk could be pretty far for some people. could be a significant trek. So it might help to do that. I think it's
This is just one observation. I'm just going based on what they recommended, and one of the things they did recommend is have a QR code that goes to a map that does have the distance. And so that, and how this all works technologically, I've been trying to talk to the people at the site to buy the signs, and I don't know if they're even in business anymore, but we would basically go make our own signs. There's QR code apps where you can put in a location on a map. They they scan the QR code with a camera on their phone. It tells them it's half a mile or 2 miles, so then they can see, all right, this is not really 10 minutes for me, but for Bob, it could be 20 minutes. For you, it could be 5 minutes.
It's embarrassing to me.
Yes.
Well, it is. I would be much faster if I didn't have to give you a piggyback ride the entire time.
Which is the highlight of my work.
Let's keep this on track. Thank you, Chad. Any comments, questions?
Great.
Chad, we're excited. Thank you for taking this initiative on. We're very excited. Any other comments, feedback for Chad before moving forward?
I have two questions.
Yes.
One, and I could be definitely wrong. I was looking and I haven't been able to find it. Typically, I think of the city engineers being responsible for encroachment permits in the right of way. Have you had any conversations with Chris?
Chris said it would be planning and codes, I thought.
That sounds like a dodge.
And then
And then planning and codes, I guess some of these locations would fall within the architectural review districts. And so that would definitely seem, those were the two people I had were the engineering, planning, and codes.
Historically, it's just been allowed by council permission to put signs in the right of way, but I'm sure if there was something Todd would have talked to you by now.
I mean, again, if we find out that I'm open, you have to suggest to me you just tell me what next step I need to take, and I'm willing to take it. But the idea is that can we do this quickly, and if we have a problem, we can.
I would suggest
Make
reaching.
some official.
Yeah,
Just make it official.
Do you need, can we officially make a motion to move forward?
Yes.
I would make a motion that we allow the Friends of the Green Crescent Trail permission to install 6 Walk Your City signs in public right of way in consultation as appropriate with city staff.
There you go.
Second.
Well, that was quick for everybody. Bob was the first one, so any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? All right. Passes. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
Chad.
evening. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Great. Yeah, Tyler's working with us to make a Green Crescent Trail underline map already, so he'll be on our list as well.
Good input.
Thank you.
All. Thank you, Chad.
Thanks.
Next item on B is consider a request for support of the 2021 Reefs Across America event from Ann Warmer. And I know that you presented earlier, so we appreciate you coming back. And everyone on City Council has gotten the update. What we received probably about 3 months ago. Is that something right?
At least, yes.
About 3 months ago. So we appreciate you coming back. And I know I'll turn it over to you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to come before you again to talk about Wreaths Across America. This is a project that I'm very passionate about. It's a way to honor the veterans who served our country and served your community. So far, this project, and it's friends of Pickens Cemetery, Central Cemeteries, and Clemson Cemeteries. And in Clemson, physically, well, Memory Gardens is in the county. People often think it's really Clemson, and some people think it's Central, but it's really in the county. But families, people from both cities and other cities are buried there. And then this year we're adding the Abel Golden View Baptist Church Cemetery. And so that's how we've expanded it. I'm coming before you to ask for $1,200 and that money goes strictly for purchasing wreaths. We're a fundraising group, and there's the only money, when we take in money, it goes right to wreaths, and that's it. So we have a QR code on our sign, on the poster that your town clerk has, that Beverly has, that we're asking you also for helping us publicize this so people realize the event's happening. And I gave each of you a business card that tells you when the different ceremonies are. And then I will formally invite you all to come and be participants in these ceremonies. So the focus is to live up to their legacy, is the theme this year, and to remember and honor and then teach our children the respect. So do you have any? I've given you the details before. You all heard them. And does anyone have any questions?
I appreciate your comment that all the money goes directly to the wreaths, it's not administrative costs.
Oh, no, no. No administrative costs whatsoever.
Any other comments? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion to consider a request from Ann Warth for council to support the December 18 to 2021 Wreaths Across America event.
Alicia, second. All right. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? All right, passes. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you. I am so grateful. I'm so grateful.
Look forward. I know I'll be. I'm sorry.
Yes, and you have everything, and on the back is the Declaration of Independence, my husband said. So,
Thank you for
thank
coming
you
back.
very much, and I look forward to seeing all of you in December.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. All right. Mayor, council reports, comments, new business.
Just one comment. At Thursday night conversations with council, with Andy will be there, Robert will be there, I will be there, Catherine will be there. And then we're going to do July 15th. You want to say something?
Yes, July 15th is also, we have our community engagement dialogue, and that will also be conversation. Hopefully that council members can attend if they choose to participate and be a part of that discussion. And that's July 15th, 2021 at 6:30, and it's at Little John Community Center.
Air conditioning and stuff.
Air conditioning. Absolutely.
At what time? I'm sorry.
6:30.
I think we may try to start all of them at 6:30.
Bob, you want me to kick off the?
Go for it.
Okay.
I mean, we wanted, Bob and Todd and I had an opportunity, Andy was out of town last week, to talk to some folks about annexing into the city, what have you, close north, distant north borderline, basically. And it's a little over 20 acres, and the opportunity for a PD, and what they wanted was an audience with council to kind of sit down, give us the first blush of the plan they have for a PD, and get our input before they get too far down the road and whether it's going to work. They're going to develop it. It's going to be housing there, but it's an opportunity for there's efficiencies for them to be in the city. There's probably some efficiencies on our side, particularly with the density and the location and the abutment, the existing student housing that they're doing. You know, they're amenable to looking at something along the lines of a dog park or public park for the commercial component of the PD. The bottom line is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, it was mainly just so we kind of all be on the same path moving forward with it. And with the public hearings we have coming up, the first meeting in August looked like the best time to do that. So we don't show up and just do a work session, do it before, maybe start an hour before council that night. And get up there. And if we agree to that, we'll have some information to be shared beforehand.
So when you say housing, you say student housing?
Student housing, they want to input those, what we were looking at in the way of other types of housing. I mean, because my understanding, and I haven't seen the first concept in fully yet either, is they were looking at some other types of housing, but at the same time, we don't ever know who's going to buy it and get in there. But yes, that's why we're sitting down to talk, look at the mix.
And if there's things added to a PD ordinance about the design of housing, even in PDs or student housing, it may force in a way that the housing is designed that it would be more appropriate for families and others. In the meeting, I thought it would just be a good idea to have this front end conversation because it's going to be a complex issue with annexation and the PD, so that we're not hearing about it the first time when they come to regular meetings. So I think this would be a good way to go, and we can, with the annexation report too. Maybe we'll have some of that information as well that will tell us.
I think the timing is going to matter too, but I think the land use plan in Clemson next is talking about specifications for student-built housing and what that needs to look like and the size and location and transportation issues. So I think we're premature. Summertime is be okay, but I think I wouldn't be comfortable proving student housing annexation until we did the work about what we expect that to look like and be like. 6 months, maybe. I don't know the time.
It might not.
It may not work.
Yeah.
They're going forward with it. It's just a matter of whether we're going to train or not.
No, but I'm just saying, I understand that, but if we can't start imposing housing requirements here and not here, so I think it'd be nice to have that lined up.
Yeah.
And I understand that we're not saying, they're gonna do it anyway, so, but I think that we would want it to be maybe the first test case for the student-built housing recommendations.
But it also is in the plan, it's in the area of North Clemson. It would be an annexation that was used, current zoning regulations to, for further student housing development there. And then you get past that point is actually where they're, say, if we would have the opportunity to annex, to look at more family type housing a little bit further north than where this piece of property is.
That'll be August 2nd at 5:30.
Again, it's just an initial discussion, not approving anything
All
at
right,
that point.
before we get to content, so we're saying August the second, 5:30 or 5?
Let's do 5 to be safe.
Okay,
Then we can have a little break, we don't right.
That's what I was just looking at the calendar to make sure. So
August the 2nd, I think it's.
August 2nd is Monday, that's why I was just verifying. Catherine?
What I wanted to say was, and I don't disagree with Fran ever, but in this case, it's interesting because I can sort of see both sides of this as we've talked in our housing group a lot, is that if they're amenable to this, this is a chance for us to kind of have some of those discussions for HSKs, if they are willing to do that, and in return, they get sort of our cooperation moving forward. Because I would rather have that control going in than, like you said, than trying to figure out which one comes first. Maybe there is a way to set some standards, as we've talked in our housing sessions many times, about the amenities, the transportation, the land use, the conservation of the public space. So I might come down in favor, hopefully I'm saying this, of being more amenable to that.
Well, that's where it's a unique situation because they can develop in there in the county.
Exactly.
We can give our guidance to a point, but if it's beyond that, then they're going to do something that may be less desirable. So,
And they're going to be asking for a PD, not purpose-built student housing. So it's actually better from our side of the table to have that level of control.
As you said, Fran, it might be time, since we're holding all the cards, to play with them.
So that's why it's good to have these discussions, by the way.
Here.
Where's the property?
Oh, sorry. Oh, I thought you were talking about for the meeting. I'm
I
like,
can never remember the name of that.
I can't remember the name of that street either.
It's Clemson.
Behind Charleston, is that the?
Is it out, what's it out 133?
It's,
Yeah, well, it's
No,
back.
it's tucked into the city more, kind of back behind the radio station. It was a little
Okay.
south of the radio
is
station.
it
back
near
in-
Ford Road, or is it Ford Road that's back there?
Hang on, I'm going to figure it
That's
out.
where I
Just
go.
a second.
There you go.
Lawrence,
Yeah,
Lawrence
Cook County,
Road.
it's in the county.
Lawrence Road.
It is on the south side of Lawrence Road,
Okay.
which is where the road that the radio station is on,
Okay.
and connects back over to Clemson Street.
Right, okay.
Good. Is that good, Beverly? Thank
No
you.
idea what
Okay. Any other reports, comments, new business? If not, can I get a motion to go, hey, we're gonna, actually, executive session, I'm gonna read this first. Discuss the city administrator's contract, South Carolina Code of Law, section 3470A1, discussion of employment, compensation, promotion, demotion, discipline, or release of an employee. But can I get a motion to go into executive session?
Second.
Second, any further discussion? motion to go back into regular session?
So moved.
Second? All right, any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? All right, we're back in regular session. Would somebody like,
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion that we authorize Mayor Halfaker to execute a contract with Administrator Blondo to be consummated no later than July 1st, 2021.
Second?
okay, we got a second from Catherine before John, and any further discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? No? All right. With that said, can I get a vote to adjourn, a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Can I get a second? Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand.